Guru, welcome back to Wet South Africa, and this is South African Prepper on the 8th of December 2022. So, around the world, it's absolute chaos. At least once a month, you read of a country that's gone into absolute chaos. My last video, I spoke about Haiti a little bit, and then recently Honduras, which is a small country in South America. I do believe that that government has been toppled. Um, I did a bit of research on Honduras because obviously we don't know anything about the South American countries that much. But in essence, what happened was very similar to what's happening in South Africa and in the rest of the world, is that this specific government was so absolute corrupt that everything just started falling apart. And what happened was that the community started forming gangs. Now, you sometimes have the good side of this when government falls apart, and then you have the bad side. So this went the bad side, where certain areas were literally, let's call it, managed by different gangs. So if you wanted to have or you had a business in that area, you had to basically pay them, let's call it, gang tax, to be able to have a business there. So that whole country just literally fell apart because the government became so corrupt that they could actually not control these gangsters anymore. And we see a similar thing in South Africa as well, where the government is so corrupt that they actually have a monopoly on certain things. It's like our electricity. They are so uneducated and so unskilled, but they've taken over the power industry in South Africa, and it is literally collapsing in front of our eyes. And it's the same with the water systems and infrastructure, roads, bridges. It's all falling apart because what they essentially do is they grab the power, and then as the money comes in, they just take the money for themselves, and then they funnel it overseas and into properties and overseas account, and they become extremely rich. And then once the shit hits the fan, they jump on their jets like the Haiti president, and then they go live somewhere else while their people are starving. So I've said it before, governments actually don't like us. They flippin' hate us. So this comes to this part of the video where how can we shield our families and how can we shield the next generation from this massive grab of power? You look at Europe and America. They are going to fall. They're going to fall flat on their faces. It's because we've allowed the governments to hold too much power and have too much say of our lives. So how do we shield or buffer ourselves against these governments? And over the years, being a prepper, you start off, and we've spoken about this before, you start off by 3 weeks of dried foods that you store away, and then you go over to 3 months and 6 months and 9 months, and then you start saving seeds and you start planting seeds. The only way for a community or a family to survive is to be self-sufficient. Okay, you have to be able to produce your own food. You have to be able to produce your own clean water, if it's from a well or wind pump or solar pump or whatever means. Those are the basic fundamentals of life. Is you're gonna need to be eating once a day. That's a guarantee. I don't care if you the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, he has to eat at least once a day. And he has to drink at least X amount of water every day to actually be alive. Okay? And this is how you buffer your family and your community, is you actually have to create, I think the right word is enclaves. It's a community of people living together. And I quite like, and I want to do a study about the Amish a little bit, because I believe these people sort of live off the grid. They do sell to people in the western side of wherever they live in America, but they literally produce and work within that community of Amish. Okay, it's called an enclave, if I'm not mistaken, and they produce enough to sustain themselves, and even apparently to sell to the local towns and the local town people. So it's interesting because that is the way you shield yourself from government. Now, I did some research about inflation. Certain companies in South Africa that actually holds the monopoly to food. I'm going to stick out my neck. Very well-known brand in South Africa, Tiger Brands. So they hold a monopoly. So they have actually, in their financial statements of 2021, they've actually made more profit than ever before. Okay, and this is in a declined economy that's bleeding. They're making profits you cannot imagine. Okay, it's because they've got the monopolies, and we need to break away as preppers from the monopolies. We need to create our own structures. We need to create our own food production, and we need to look after our own people. This is South African, please. South African Prepper. Sorry for that. Please like, share, and subscribe.